welcome back to Talk Jamaica here on Talk Jamaica Radio. We're streaming live at talkjamaicaradio.com. My name is Ricardo Brooks.
I am Ralston Chamberlain. In this drought period, several parishes, especially those in the southern, surviving this drought period. It is affecting every aspect of life. Senator Norman Grant says domestic food production, which was set for exponential expansion in 2014, has fallen sharply in the second quarter of this year. However, Acting Agricultural Minister Derek Kellier said there is no need for panic about a possible food shortage. Do you think, listeners, we should brace ourselves for a food shortage crisis? And is this drought our undoing, or will the authorities finally present viable strategies for food security and effective water resource management? Today we are joined by Mayor of Maypen and Chairman of the Clarendon Parish Council, Councillor Scean Barsnwell, and also online with us is Opposition Spokesman on Agriculture and Deputy Leader of the JLP in Northwest St. Elizabeth MP, J.C. Hutchinson. Gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Good afternoon. Let me start with Mr. Barsnwell, you first. Clarendon has been arguably one of the parishes that has been hardest hit by the drought conditions, which we are anticipating will get worse. Can you say to our listeners how, in your estimation, the parish is coping?
All right. First, I can't really speak categorically to the agricultural industry, but what I do know is that the affected communities in the hilly terrain of Clarendon, more so north, central, and northwest Clarendon, section of southwest and southeast, has been adversely affected. This being the parish council minor water supply system at its lowest, and in some instances, none at all. There's no water in the entombment or the catchment system. And as a result, we have to increase trucking of water to affected areas. Recently, I've looked on our budget, and it will cost us close to $13 million per month, roughly $3.5 million thereabouts per week to truck water to the affected areas. So I know that with that amount of money, it's really a significant sum, and those communities are really, adversely affected by it. And it will be a spin-off because the farmers in the hilly terrain depend on the river, which is now dry, which is the Ryamina River, to get water for irrigation and also from rainfall. But not having both, it will somehow affect the farmers and the livelihood of those farmers.
Now, Mayor Barsnwell, if conditions persist longer than expected, and by all indications, we're going to have this drought for a little while, do you think there are strategies we can use that are not currently being employed generally to combat this drought?
Well, what we have been doing, for example, in the Mount Pleasant area, we have been using the backside mine-out lines, those depots, and we apply liners to them and use it as a catchment area, and the farmers use it for irrigation. So we have been implementing several different measures as to how the farmers can use same to remedy the situation. We have been having small amount of rainfall, not the amount I would expect, but over the past 2 to 3 days, there was some rainfall experience in the northern part of the parish. So we have been looking at rainwater harvesting. We have been looking at drip irrigation and as some of the measures in which we will be able to assist farmers. As it relates to water harvesting for domestic use, we have kind of repairs to some of our entombment and water supply system for those that are leaking, have them repaired and have them ready for the rainfall expected in October thereabout. But if a system which is presently out, that tropical storm should bring showers or bring rain to the island, then we should be in a better position to be able to harness that water.
Mr. Hutchinson?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. A lot of persons have been saying that, the government has been slow to respond to the effects of this drought. What are some of the strategies that you think that can be put in place in this, short-term period that can help the farmers?
Well, one of the things is that they need to be able to get back on their feet as quickly as possible. And so although a small amount of money has been allocated, there needs to be much more because the drought has devastated, I would say, the breadbasket that St. Elizabeth. And there has been roughly 2 good showers of rain over the last 2 days. But what has happened is that this is assisting those who have crops in the ground, those who are actually going to be planted. You find that it needs much more water. And as soon as we get some more rain, we are hoping that assistance will be available so that they will be able to get up and running immediately. We are also looking at doing some water harvesting. We do have a number of ponds where we are putting pond liners, and they still have water, and they are able to, where those are, they are able to look after their crops and animals. But we are hoping that some more assistance will be coming, whereby they can get seeds, fertilizer, and so forth, so that they can get off the ground immediately.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Hutchinson, about 4 days ago, RJR carried you stating that there is a food shortage, yes? Are we really, and I wanted to, should we really be worried about food security at this time or in the future?
There is still, and I emphasize still, food shortage, and I name the crops like onion, carrot, tomato, scallion, cantaloupe, cucumber. All these crops are in short supply. Let us not beat around the bush. The point is that when you have prices increasing, and increasing as dramatically as they have done, there has to be a shortage. If there was a lot of it, if there was a glut, you would have found that the prices would have gone down. If it was a normal supply, you would find that the prices would be stable. The prices have skyrocketed. And because of that, it is because of the shortage. You are finding that also the produce that you are getting, as I have mentioned, the produce you are getting is the grade C produce. There is no grade A, no grade B produce that is out there going into the market. Now, when you can check the market, it is so. The grade C produce are those crops that were usually left in the ground. That is being supplied to the market now. And if you go to the market, the dealers will tell you that.
Mayor Barsnwell, one of our listeners is asking if there are any plans to better prepare for a situation like this. As a parish council, have you guys been considering, after we get through this process, how your parish, for example, would respond if the country faces another severe bout of drought?
All right, the plan of action is to look on wayside tanks, where we'll be able, some areas we're putting up wayside tanks where person can easily collect water from, and some we're looking at installing a tank on elevation where to grab it to feed to communities. So we're looking at that. The other thing we're looking at is the whole rainwater harvesting from our main water catchment system. We'll be using solar pump to pump the water from underground. That's the rainwater, that is. After it's been treated, pump to black tanks and then proceed to get the water. We already started a pilot project in some section of the parish. We see it working, and we're looking to expand the same across the affected areas. We are also embarked on public education as to the best use of water, and also looking at how to adopt best agricultural techniques in using less water to irrigate your crops. So we are looking at everything through our disaster committee, the disaster parish coordinator, that is, being out there championing the cause with the farmers and also with the affected communities.
I want to come back to Mr. Hutchinson, because I am concerned about this whole idea or this whole issue of food shortage, and the question I want, because the president of the JAS said that despite the drought, there is a growth of 18% in the sector. And do you then think that it's kind of been an alarmist to say that, okay, we are really having this food shortage?
Well, one of the things, there is a food shortage. Let's not get away about that. But let me put it in, go a little further, because we are going to be having this drought as we see it with climate change coming on for the next couple of years. And so with agriculture, to move forward, there has to be a restructuring of the agricultural sector. Or else we are going to be in this plight all the time. So with the restructuring, what we need to do is have agricultural complexes. These agricultural complexes will have where during the time of glut, all produce, as a matter of fact, at all times, all produce taken off from the farmers at a contracted price. They are graded, packaged, and processed. And this complex, you also have storage. Now, you have these crops that are stored during the drought period, and during this time of scarcity, you have the crops moving out into the market, where at this time you therefore have a stable price. There has to be a restructuring of the agricultural sector with the farmers' organizations at the base, and these organizations linked into rather where funds coming from rather go directly to the farmers' organization and not to politicians. That is how we're going to move this thing forward. If we keep on the same way we are, agriculture will be stagnant. Very strong word, but that is how it has to be.
All right. Let me ask you this, and I'm going to put the question to Mr. Mayor Barsnwell as well. But Mr. Hutchinson, many farmers are still continuing the practice of slash and burn in clearing their fields. Should these persons be liable for prosecution? And then I heard, I was just reading something coming across where the president of the JS saying that they're going to look at outlawing this. Your take on it?
I don't believe in outlawing slash and burn as such. So you have to look at it, and I think in times of drought, we can put a stipulation on that, where we make sure that we put in place laws, enforcement, whatever you want to call it, whereby we say all and sundry, there must not be any burning of any land whatsoever. And this is not only for agricultural land, any even bush fires and so forth, burning bush. So it's not just slash and burning, and this has to be during the dry period. You have some farmers that are up in the hills, they have a small plot of land, they don't have the funds to buy the gramoxone and so forth to burn the land, because these inputs are so expensive now, they can't do it. So they have to do some burning of their crops during the rainy season, especially when you have the planting season. But during the drought, we have to put some regulation in place where this does not take place.
And Mr. Barsnwell, what's your take on the whole idea of making slash and burn illegal?
Slash and burn is an old method of clearing lands, and I think we have modern technology which assists farmers. I think what RADA needs to do, or the field officers at RADA need to do, is to try to educate these farmers about the new techniques. Because when you burn the field, when you burn that area, the nutrients is no longer there, and the moisture is no longer there in the soil. So I think they now need to utilize that grass as mulching, to help to reserve and preserve and to keep the moisture in the soil. So it's a matter of public education to those farmers. I think they need to start to do workshops with them as to how they go about clearing land. But it's really something which I've seen now recently, especially in St. Elizabeth, can cause damage and loss of lives and property. And they need to understand that not only their neighbors is at risk, but even themselves. Because we have seen it, and it's time has come now for us to adopt a new approach to this. And if it means prosecution, I'm for it.
Mm-hmm. All right, Mayor and Mr. Hutchins, I want to switch gears now to talk about this issue of water parties. And I'm going to start with you, Mayor, as the leader of a parish council. A lot of persons, a lot of citizens are saying that, look, these water parties absolutely should be banned. They shouldn't be happening in this period. But some people are saying, it's private water. Yes? Can you first of all explain to us where private water would have come from? Where would they be getting that? And whether or not you would agree with the view that we ought to ban these waters during the drought?
In a situation where you have drought, there shouldn't have been any water parties away from beaches beaches and seas, so to speak. Because the rivers are now dry, the springs are low, and we now need to start to conserve the precious commodity. At the parish council, where persons now applying for water parties, we don't give permit for that because the water we purchase elsewhere. All right, we're from one of the loading bay of the NWC, and then that water used to fill up these pools, makeshift pools that they have.
So Mayor, you're saying that this water that they're buying. They purchase the water from one of the NWC.
Yeah, they purchase it from NWC loading bay because persons may have a private well that they use to do business. For example, bottling plants that makes drinks. They may have, or the irrigation sector for cane and stuff. They may have their own irrigation wells. But I think this water definitely comes from one of either the NWC or these entities. But irrespective of where it comes from, in a situation such as this, I think there should be a zero tolerance for pool party. There should be none. A water party keeping now until the situation has improved.
So the KSAC, Mayor, has said that once the water is not from the NWC, they cannot bar them. Are you worried it may be in breach of the law by banning the parties when they ask for permits from your council?
Well, as I said before, that we now need to become conscious of this situation which now faces us. And when I pass and see a pool of whatever capacity size pool it is with people there, you can have fun without a pool party at this time. You still have beach access, that person can still go and have fun, but you can have parties without having a pool at this time. That's all I'm saying. Once the situation is as it's now, they should be abandoning it. Once it improves, then you can be able to have the system return to normalcy.
Okay.
So whether it's from private entity or from NWC, my own belief is that there should be a abandoned pool party at this time. Another thing we need to look at too is those charcoal, they also contribute to what has been affecting the country. If you look along many of our hillsides, many trees have now been cut down and used for charcoals. Another someone will tell you that farmer for economic opportunities for them. But then when you do that, you also reduce or limit that particular area from rainfall because there's no longer trees. Not only that, whenever you do have a downpour rainfall over a prolonged period, then you have landslide and mudslide and flooding because the roots are no longer there to bind and to hold the soil itself. So we need to look not only on the pool parties at this time, but those persons who are cutting down trees and use it for charcoal. Something we need to look at seriously, something needs to be policed, something needs to be monitored. And we have to put some level of enforcement and monitoring restriction on it.
Mr. Hutchinson, in light of what the mayor just said about, managing how we cut down trees and that sort of thing, do you think Jamaica needs stronger laws then to protect and safeguard the environment generally?
Yes, I think definitely there needs, because I don't think that there are areas where people just wantonly just cut trees to go and do farming, and in many instances, these help in getting rainfall. And one, we have to look, and one of the things we also look at is where we have some good agricultural and some farming lands, where you even have a lot of fruit trees. We find all of this being taken out, and you have concrete structures being put up there, and these are good agricultural land. When you are taking out these agricultural land now, further down the line, what is agriculture going to be looking like in this country? This is the base on which we have to grow the sector, grow the economy. And much of the agricultural land now is being taken out and put into concrete. This has to stop. I think we need to get some more laws into the zoning of areas. And this needs to be done immediately, because it is going at a rapid rate, this whole destruction of trees and farmland.
Let me ask you, Mr. Hutchinson, sorry. Let me ask Mr. Hutchinson this question. Had you been the Minister of Agriculture at this point in time, what would you have done differently in terms of the old drought that is affecting us? How would you go about putting in place measures to ensure that come next year we do not run into this kind of a situation?
Well, let me just say, we started out, and I am sure everybody is aware of the agro-parks. And these agro-parks were designed, conceptualized, to be able to make sure that we are able to take our produce. It was also, once those structures were up, it would be one where we would then be in the second phase, having irrigation schemes going out there, irrigating land right across the country, wherever we have these springs and so forth. This was what was started. Now it has changed, the whole complex has changed altogether. And I see the present government is now putting the cart before the horse. They are now trying to put in place some farmers on land which was there already. And these same agro-parks, which they have been saying have been doing well, have failed planting Garden River. The farmers there owe millions of dollars because they have not got off the ground. So what would have happened is that we would have been able to get produce coming off, and then we would have been putting in irrigation schemes right throughout the island to help boost production as we go along. But we also would be having produce in place to help during the time of scarcity.
Mm-hmm. And finally, now, gentlemen, starting with you first, Mayor, and then to you, Mr. Hutchinson, the U.S. travel advisory issued by the U.S. Embassy. Do you anticipate that it will have a significant impact on travel to Jamaica?
No, I didn't hear that. What was it?
Sorry. Advisory that was issued
Repeat the question.
The travel advisory issued by the U.S. Embassy, do you believe it will have significant impact on travel to the island?
Well, I'm not sure exactly what the travel advisory state. I'm not sure if it's because of this new Ebola disease.
No, it's in relation
I'm not
to
sure.
the drought.
For the drought?
Yes.
Well, it's something for us to monitor. I can't speak on it yet. I think we have to just watch the cancellation, if any, from those persons who have already pre-booked, and then that will be able to say to us that yes, that's affected us. But it's still a bit premature for me to say it will at this time.
Okay, Mr. Hutchinson.
No, I don't think it's going to have any effect. As a matter of fact, the few showers that we have had so far, I think hopefully, and the forecast, we have some more showers, which will be able to keep us going, keep the farmers in place, and keep the water systems going as best as possible. Many of the farmers I know are actually getting back on their feet now, and hopefully will keep going. And the water systems hopefully will be replenishing their supplies so that there shouldn't be a problem.
Mm-hmm. All right, gentlemen, we want to thank you for coming in and talking to us today on this issue. We hope to have you again to kind of give our listeners an insight as to what really we can do as a country to really combat this issue of our water problem. Thank you for coming with us. We have been talking to J.C. Hutchinson, spokesperson on agriculture and deputy leader in the Jamaica Labour Party, also Northwest St. Elizabeth MP. We also had online the Mayor of Maypen and Chairman of the Clarendon Parish Council, Councillor Scean Barsnwell. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks for having me.
You're most welcome.